Akin slept the rest of the night with the red-haired man. He simply waited until the man adjusted his sleeping mat under the newly built shelter and lay down. Then Akin crawled onto the mat and lay beside him. The man raised his head, frowned at Akin, then said, "Okay, kid, as long as you're housebroken." The next morning, while the red-haired man shared his sparse breakfast with Akin, his original captor vomited blood and collapsed. Frightened, Akin watched him from behind the red-haired man. This should not be happening. It should not be happening. Akin hugged himself, trembling, panting. The man was in pain, bleeding, sick, and all his friends could do was help him lie flat and turn his head to one side so that he did not re-swallow the blood. Why didn't they find an Oloi? How could they just let their friend bleed? He might bleed too much and die. Akin had heard of humans doing that. They could not stop themselves from hemorrhaging without help. Akin could do this within his own body, but he did not know how to teach this skill to a human. Perhaps it could not be taught, and he could not do it for anyone else the way the Uloi could. One of the men went down to the river and got water. Another sat with the sick man and wiped away the blood, though the man continued to bleed. "Jesus," the red-haired man said. "He's never been that bad before." He looked down at Akin, frowned, then picked Akin up and walked away toward the river. They met the man who had gone for the water coming back with a gourd full. "Is he all right?" the man asked, stopping so quickly he spilled some of his water. "He's still throwing up blood. I thought I'd get the kid away." The other man hurried on, spilling more of his water. The red-haired man sat on a fallen tree and put Akin down beside him. "Shit," he muttered to himself. He put one foot on the tree trunk, turning away from Akin. Akin sat, torn, wanting to speak, yet not daring to, almost sick himself about the bleeding man. It was wrong to allow such suffering, utterly wrong, to throw a life so unfinished, unbalanced, unshared. The red-haired man picked him up and held him, peering into his face worriedly. "You're not getting sick too, are you?" he asked. "Please, God, no." "No," Akin whispered. The man looked at him sharply. "So you can talk?" "Tilden said you ought to know a few words, being what you are. You probably know more than a few, don't you?" "Yes." Akin did not realize until later that the man had not expected an answer. Human beings talk to trees and rivers and boats and insects the same way they talk to babies. They talked to be talking, but they believed they were talking to uncomprehending things. It upset and frightened them when something that should have been mute answered intelligently. All this Akin realized later. Now he could only think of the man vomiting blood and perhaps dying, so incomplete. And the red-haired man had been kind. Perhaps he would listen.